Fellow Kenyans, Steve Mbogo here. Now, there's an issue that has been subject to discussion in this country for quite some time. And I want Kenyans to understand that this airport issue is not an issue to be taken lightly the way Kenyans are perceiving it. I want Kenyans to understand that control of the airport will create total control of what is coming in and coming out of this country. Now, I want to remind Kenyans that the biggest agenda in the world today is to break sovereignties of other countries and build what we call a one world government. And under the one world government ideology or agenda, one of their strategy is to create what we call liberal states. When I talk of liberal states, I'm talking about countries without borders. And a number of times, our president himself has stated clearly that Kenya will be a country that will be visa-free and invite anyone who wants to come in. Few days ago, we saw that the Ministry of Immigration decided and made a law to cancel vetting of IDs in this country. Few months ago, we saw that one of the conditions that was given by IMF to Kenya is that for us to get funding from IMF, we must integrate all the refugees in the Dadaab camp into the local communities. And we're talking about 1 million people. So the main agenda is to open up states and create liberal states. And they're using this strategy of acquiring the airport to ensure that they can infiltrate this country and fill this country with immigrants. I want Kenyans to understand that the moment our airport is given to Adani, Adani is just but a decoy or a puppet of the biggest globalist organizations that are planning to take over this country. And that is why when you look at the deal in itself, it's a deal that does not make sense. Adani is proposing to build an airport of about 2.5 billion. And out of the 2.5 billion, they're only investing 18%. 52% is supposed to be invested by Jomo Kenyatta International Airport or the government. And the other 30%, they're proposing to have it funded through a borrowing. And one of the conditions they're giving Kenya is that Kenya has to surrender its title deed, that is the title deed for JKIA, in order for them to get the funding. So this thing does not make sense at all. I want Kenyans to understand that today, when you look at a majority of the developed countries, talk of America, talk of Europe, today the entire Europe and America are at a brink of civil war. And this was created by opening up their borders and allowing immigrants to infiltrate their countries. And all this was done by design. And that is why we see offers given by the government for people to go and work in abroad. They're trying to break sovereignties of all these countries in the world. So Kenya should be very careful. Once these people have total control of our airport, we'll not be able to know who is coming in the country and who is going out of the country. As we speak today, Kenya has been named as one of the biggest ports of human trafficking in Africa. Kenya has become a conduit of human trafficking. Kenya has become a source of human trafficking, and Kenya has become a destination of human trafficking. Today, human trafficking in the world is the biggest business amongst all black businesses in this world today. Human trafficking has been done in the world for about 4 main purposes. Number 1 is what we call forced labor. Number 2, sexual exploitation. Number 3, organ trafficking. And the last one is what we call adrenochrome. Now, adrenochrome is a chemical compound that is formed after the oxidation of what we call adrenaline. Scientists have discovered that the adrenochrome from young children creates stem cells that reverse aging to the old. And that is why today in Kenya, we've noticed for the last 1-2 years, there are so many cases of children being abducted or being intercepted in the process of abduction. Go and read about the human trafficking incidences in Haiti, in Ukraine, and you'll understand that this is a bigger business or ploy that is being planned in this country. Number 2, I said the other purpose is because of what you call forced labor. Many people are kidnapped to go and work in foreign multinational companies or multinational firms out there. And that is also a major issue, and it's something that is happening in the whole world today. Number 3, I mentioned something to do with sex exploitation, which is self-explanatory. And the 4th one is organ trafficking. Organ trafficking today has become one of the biggest businesses in the world as we speak. Simple organs like the liver, a liver will cost up to 500,000 euros for a single liver. An organ like a kidney will go up to about 250,000 euros. A simple organ like what you call the bone marrow, a gram of bone marrow is up to $20,000. Another organ like the eye cornea goes up to a minimum of about 15 to 20,000 euros. Talk of the lungs. A pair of lungs will go up to 600,000 euros. Talk of the heart, and a human normal functioning heart will go up to about 300,000 euros. So I want Kenyans to understand that the moment we let this airport be taken over by a foreign entity, that is the beginning of the end of this country. Let us not just look at the monetary factor, that there are people who will benefit and make money. We are giving out our country by simply giving out our most strategic hub or transport hub or port, and that is the airport of Kenya, that is JKIA. So I want the government to understand that as much as you're being pushed to implement these things, even you amongst yourselves, you're also in this menu. Let us be patriots and protect this country from these shackles of the neo-colonialism that is being planned against us. So I hereby urge our parliamentarians to review what you call the human trafficking laws in this country. Remember, in the past finance bill, they had suggested, and you know very well that the finance bill was a finance bill that was drafted by the same globalists I'm talking about. They had suggested to remove all taxes and levies for what you call NGOs. And these activities are conducted by NGOs in this country. And I said, take a look, go and read about the human trafficking in countries like Haiti and human trafficking in countries like Ukraine. All these countries, the trafficking is done through these globalist NGOs. I remember even during the debate where MP Kaluma was fighting a motion where they had suggested a clause to allow any person to adopt a child and not a couple, because before it was a couple that was allowed to adopt a child. And they were amending that clause purposely to enhance this activity in this country. Number two, I urge our parliamentarians to really take into consideration and learn from our neighboring countries. Today, we've seen that a majority of our neighboring countries, talking of Somalia, Uganda, and even Tanzania, these are countries that have signed laws with the International Criminal Courts of Justice. So it is time as Kenyans, we put our foot down and try fight this menace in this country. And I beg the government not to allow this idea of giving out our airport to these globalist organizations. There are so many Kenyans out here who can really invest. We can do local or domestic investment, and the airport will be run by one of our own here.